Welcome to the Marketing Mixtape podcast, hosted by me, Brittany Winfield of the Winfield Creative. And on this episode, I'm joined by Ashley Kruse of the Business Baddie. Ashley and I will be talking about how to be a baddie online so you could show up as your truest, most authentic self. If you have any burning marketing questions, be sure to submit them at speakpipe.com/themarketingmixtape. And don't forget to like and subscribe so we can find more viewers just like you. Let's go! Oh, I am so excited for this chat with you because I feel like in this holiday season, everybody just needs a little reminder of how much of a baddie they are.
Yes, so good.
Oh my gosh. So why don't you start off by telling everybody who you are and what you do, and then I'll do the same.
Yes. Hey, everyone. My name is Ashley Kruse. I am the founder of Business Baddie and also Baddie Creative. So, in my world, what we do is we help female coaches, course creators, and healers grow and scale their business using not only strategy and digital marketing, but also energetics, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today in the terms of being a baddie. So, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited too because I don't know about you, but it feels like that season and people are just kind of coming out of it right now. So I'm excited we're having the energetics talk as well and moving into this new season of 2024 with like really good energy. For
Yes.
those who don't know the Winfield Creative, hey, my name's Brittany. I am a social media manager and mentor for womenpreneurs. I provide content marketing solutions for businesses of all types. So I'm excited to connect with you, Ashley, and I know we have a few mutual friends who were just like, if anybody, you need to invite Ashley onto the podcast. So we're finally doing it.
Yeah, shout out to Nicole and Kay for connecting us because
Yes.
so great.
Amazing. Good friends. Good friends. So let's talk about how storytelling is so important to that period of self-discovery and discovering your authentic self.
Yeah, so I think like when we get into this conversation, we kind of have to define what a baddie means because I think there's a lot of nuance to what a baddie means. And like when I think of baddie, like when I initially think of baddie, I think a lot of people think of like big names like Cardi B or like Megan Thee
Yeah.
Stallion. And like, yes, they are fully baddies, right? Like the idea of a baddie is really that you are your most authentic self, that you own your story, you own your authenticity. And as an online entrepreneur or online business owner, leverage that story or your energetics or how you show up in the world as a way to connect to your audience. And so, what I have found with my clients is that the ones that really own who they are and really step into what I call your baddie energy, which can be found in a multitude of ways, which we can talk about. But when you step into your baddie energy, your confidence skyrockets, which means your content comes across more clear. Your audience connects with you because you're telling them a story that people can relate to. And I honestly believe that when you are in your baddie energy, you separate yourself from people who do similar things to you. And in my world with coaches and course creators, there's lots of us out here. And so differentiation in the marketplace when we think about strategy is really important, and one of the best ways to do that is through your energetics and what you bring to the table that's only yours.
Absolutely. Everybody here has a unique story. You have a unique story. I have a unique story that helps us make the decisions that we make every single day. And I think that, we root that in our core values as we start to develop our business plans and our coaching programs. And being a baddie, as you said, it doesn't have to be as like, I'm here, I'm loud,
Yeah.
it is like, especially speaking to the introverts out there or like
Yes.
folks with social anxiety, it doesn't have to be as loud and proud as it often comes about. It doesn't have to be about the loudest person in the room, but it does have to be about the most authentic person, the most genuine person. And as we were saying in our previous conversations, like your story is your superpower. It's the only thing that you know better than anybody else in this world. And it is such a powerful tool in your marketing plan, but even more than just your marketing plan, when you need to make a decision in your life, in your business, for for yourself, getting to the root of your story helps you make more authentic decisions that enhance your life and your business rather than trying to be something that you're not.
Totally. I think what you're like talking about there is ownership
Yeah.
of your story, of being willing to own the journey that's gotten you here, because I think that's one of the downsides of being an online entrepreneur is that we see the highlight reels. And
Yeah.
so I don't know about you guys, but like when I first started my business, as I'm scrolling through, there was like this comparison mode of like, oh, they went through something that maybe seems a little bit easier than what I, is there room for me in this space? And over time, I've been in business for 5 years now, and I've helped hundreds of entrepreneurs find that baddie energy. And it's like the minute you lock into that and you take ownership of your story, you become so powerful and people are instantly magnetized to you. Like
Yes.
it's like about slaying that shame, if you will. And if you think
Yeah.
about the idea of baddie, that's kind of like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. They don't care what people think.
Yes.
Now, do you have to have your nails done and your hair done and all the things? No, but you're just owning like who you are. And so for me, like I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an entrepreneur. So like a lot of my clothes are like yoga and classic and whatever, but like one of the ways that I step into my body energy, even just before jumping on this live, I was like, ooh, you know, it would feel so good for me to show up in is with a pink lip. So it's like I've got
Yes.
blue yoga pants below this ring light, and I've
Yeah.
got like I just got out of the shower, but I'm like, ooh, how can I amp this up 1% more? And it was with the lip. And it's like, okay, when I do that for myself, I my energy shifts, right? I show up differently, I show up more powerfully, and each one of us has something like that. It might not be lipstick for you, it might be something completely different, but the goal here in terms of baddie energy is finding what makes you feel the best so that you can own your story, because a big piece of that is like that confidence to owning it.
Absolutely. I feel like I do this with like language that I use.
Yeah.
I tell this story often on my pages where when I was first getting started in business, so I designed my logo, I did all my branding myself. I got started in 2021, which was kind of mid lockdown. People were switching to the online space, quitting their jobs, turning their side hustles into full time jobs. So I was doing a lot of that competitive market comparison because that is an important piece of starting a business is knowing which space that you are walking into in order to educate yourself. And when I was designing my logo, I was like, well, everybody's doing minimalist. Like, why don't I just like hop on the bandwagon? And let me tell you, it was like the worst feeling. I would
Yes.
just like look at these logos and be like, not it. Nope. Nope. Because that just wasn't me. Like, I'm a loud, weird girl from New Jersey. I don't really wear makeup ever. Like, it's very rare occasions. And I'm like, why am I trying to be something I'm not?
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't feel like pastel pink just doesn't feel like me. So when you get to the root of who you want to show up as, like the number one compliment I get nowadays is I love your branding. It stands out. Like it fuels creativity. And I would have never felt this aligned with the branding if I hadn't stuck to my guns and not have just done what everybody else was doing because I saw it everywhere. I was like, oh, let me give myself an edge if I try to be like mimic other people. And it was going to burn me if I kept going that route. And I actually just did my first makeup free branding photo shoot and it felt so freaking good. Shout out to Barbie Hausinger of Owl Iris Photography. Like, I was just like, who cares? Like, who cares? If my content's good, then people aren't gonna care if I like wear mascara.
Yeah. Okay. I'm writing that down. Schedule makeup free photography session. I love that idea. And it reminds me, like, as you're talking about that, it reminds me of like when I joined the coaching space, which was back in 2018. I went to a Gabby Bernstein meetup in New York City, and I felt so othered in that space because, like, I am a very spiritual girly, but like, I'm not over here. Like, I do spiritual things, but it's not like the thing that I do. My brain is very strategy focused. I'm very like I love that piece. And when I went to Gabby's like meetup, it was like everyone was in a similar outfit. I'm over here like in jeans and a t-shirt, and I have this picture from that day and I'm like, wow, like I really felt like I had to be like those people in order to be successful. And what happened, and funny enough, over the 5 years I've evolved my brand, and when I was more basic and like I'm not saying that Gabby's basic or her people are basic. I'm just saying when I tried to fit in to that aesthetic that actually wasn't mine, I completely blended in. And as soon as I decided to own this like loud and like extroverted energy where I like am burning down like beliefs and things like that. Like if you look at my brand, a lot of my stuff is like fire and lightning bolts because I'm punchy and I am like very straight to the point, and that's just my energy, right? As soon as I started owning that, people started to remember me. And it was like, oh, I got it. We don't want to blend in. We actually want to stand out, especially in the online space. And it takes a little bit of inner work to get there. It takes a little bit of like that deeper healing work of like, ooh, what does it mean if I don't fit in? Can I hold myself through that? And then when I learn how to do that, it feels so much easier to stand out and to like own that part of your story or own that part of your brand or own that part of your energetics.
Absolutely. And I feel like fashion is a piece that gets, no, I don't want to say overlooked, but fashion is a very important piece to branding that I think that people in the marketing space just kind of think of like logos and what your content looks like and the colors that you use and the fonts and stuff like that. But one of the most important lessons that my business coach, shout out to Molly Lannon of CW Creative, local printer in Vermont, one of the greatest lessons she ever taught me was you can brand your fashion to mimic your business. Like you can bleed the two together so that way your personal life and your professional life start to have this, like synergy between it. And let me tell you, actually, when I was like finally figured out what my four main colors are, the navy, the turquoise, the yellow, the green that people see on my social media pages, I started buying clothes that had navy, that specific green color, not yellow because it doesn't work with my hair, but in the powder blue. And let me tell you, like not only do I look fire in those colors, but people was like could actually recognize me in public being like, you must be the Winfield creative because you are wearing those clothes. It made branding photo shoots just feel more seamless. So I think fashion often gets overlooked as a piece of branding that could be a very important piece for especially solopreneurs to feel a little bit more grounded and empowered at the same time in what they're wearing, and then the words coming out of their mouth being reflective of that and their body language.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just say, well, first of all, well bragged on like just like owning that part of you. Like I think that's amazing. And also I think it's like when we think of the term like fashion, it's like, oh, I have to be like I don't know, Vogue fashion-y. And it's like, no, actually, like I described my own fashion sense and I worked with a coach on this and it was called energetic styling. Shout out to Ellie Barkley for that one. But what she helped me do was to find my fashion sense so that when I can own it when I'm writing content, when I'm, creating content like this, right? When I'm behind the camera or in front of the camera rather, I am owning my style, which for me is
Yeah.
like classic neutral colors with a little pop of color in the lip and an edgy like leather jacket. And it's like, I remember when I bought this leather jacket in Italy like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. When I put that leather jacket on, I am telling you, I turn into someone that I love to be. And it's like, what are the pieces of clothing in your closet that really help you feel connected to yourself, connected to
Yeah.
what you have to say, and connected to your vision? Start there. You don't have to go buy a bunch of stuff.
No.
Just use what's in your closet, but like pay attention to how you feel when you get dressed. It's not about being high Vogue, Kim Kardashian vibes. It's more about like what works for you. So I love that you mentioned fashion here.
Yes, absolutely. And also, like, it actually makes it so much easier to pick out clothes for business events. May I also pick that out? Because you're like basically creating your own capsule wardrobe.
Totally.
So, yeah, it's more efficient. Don't we love efficiency?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about energetic. So, in your experience coaching, how does energy really affect results for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way to describe it is like how you feel about your business or how you feel about sales, how you feel about content will be mirrored in the content, the sales, the business results, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if I walk into a live feeling a little bit like not nervous, but if I don't feel my best self, if I am like really in my doubt and in my stories about what's possible for me, I'm going to show up differently on camera than I might if I was in my more confident self. And it's like sometimes we still have to show up on camera when we're not feeling our confident self, so we kind of have to do a little bit of trickery, i.e. the lipstick, right? To kind of tap into that like bold, proud energy that we have inside of us. And so, what I always like to think is like, the way that we show up and the way that we feel about ourselves, about our business, or whatever is happening in our lives is oftentimes that it is oftentimes reflected in whatever it is that we're doing. And so that's how I like to describe energetics. There's so many nuances to it though. But for people who might not understand the deep stuff of energetics, I like to keep it high level and just be like, it's really about how you feel and how you're showing up.
Yeah, exactly. And you may come across roadblocks. We've all come across roadblocks. You talked about the highlights before. There are times where I've had to be on camera, have had to scheduled a live months ago, and just the day I woke up wasn't the day I was feeling it. And sometimes you do have to power through, but there are mechanics, there are different trickeries that you can use. I know one of the ones that I rely on, no matter if I'm feeling nervous or actually feeling really confident, is just kind of grounding myself before a live, before going on camera, before a business event. Like, I'll sit in my car before walking into a conference and be like, you've got this. Like, literally put down the mirror, look yourself in the eyes and be like, I got this. Like, I look like a bad bee right now. Like, I know at least one person in here. If I
Yeah,
need a little bit of a little bit of a crutch, I can go introduce myself to that person first. And, but all in all, you are representative of your business. And if you can do a little bit of that work beforehand, your energy will come across as more confident, more empowered. Like, you may still be nervous, but you at least showing up to that event, despite what you may be feeling, makes you 1%, like you are showing up at least 1% better than if you were to just stay home that day.
totally. And the way that I sometimes like to describe energetics too is like how you were describing, yeah, I'm going to be nervous, but am I up in my head or am I grounded in my body and reminding myself that, like, oh, I'm safe to go into this networking event. It's safe to put myself out there. It's safe to post this content. It's safe to sell as an entrepreneur. And if we're constantly up in our head, our stories get really loud. Like, I'm
Yeah.
bad at sales or I'm awkward in public settings. Even if that's true, like whatever, most people don't notice. But it's like, can you learn to bring yourself down into your body, energetically ground yourself so that when you do go into those events or you're posting even like content that might feel a little edgy to post around your ideas, your thoughts, and opinions, being grounded in yourself oftentimes is such a beautiful way to be to get that energetic alignment that I think that we're looking for. And I think if you like, if you're like, what is if you're still confused about that, I want you to think about a time where in your body you feel grounded, you feel safe, you feel comfortable, right? That is the feeling that we are actually looking for when it comes to doing big and scary things, right? So, for example, the one thing that I like to think about is one of the places that I feel safest is like this one spot on my couch with a cozy cup of coffee or whatever else with my journal and a candle lit. In my body, I can sense, even with me not doing that right now, I can sense the feeling that I have in my body. And so, my job in those moments where I'm nervous, where I am about to sell a high ticket package, or there's a big deal on the line, or something like that, or I'm getting on stage to speak, it's how do I connect back into that without that thing being actually something that I'm doing in this moment. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you nailed it on the head where even if you can't be in that moment, I actually just went to my very first meditation not too long ago. And I know some people might be like, oh, it's a little woo-woo, but it was a visual guided meditation where we were in a salt cave. They have those in Vermont, in case you didn't know, where there's a lot of scientific benefits. So we're sitting in a salt cave in a gravity chair, kicked back, eyes closed, and just went through the like a visualization exercise. And so I feel like folks can like develop some of those skills as well of, even if you're not physically at home sitting on your couch with a candle lit, you can almost close your eyes and picture what the last time was like, what those feelings that you felt were like. And I think that's why it's important. And part of these energetic exercises is when you do have the opportunity to be in your favorite place, to be in a place that you are grounded, take note, like take a moment, and instead of like turning on the TV right away or, doing something else that may be as just distracting, like scrolling on TikTok, whatever it may be, guilty. Just be in present in that moment and soak in what you feel like when you do get a moment of relaxation. Put it as like a little mental file, because it is so important when you don't have those opportunities to pull from what your past experiences are like.
Yeah, totally. I think you speak to something that's really important because you said, if you are someone who's like, oh, that's so woo woo. Science doesn't lie here. Science does say that meditation and slowing your heart rate down make you more effective, not only as a leader, but as a business owner. And so, when you're talking fast, it's because you're not thinking or you're not in your body, you're in your head.
Yeah.
And I oftentimes find that the more grounded I am, the more clearly I speak, the more clear I am in what I want to say. If I'm 10 seconds ahead of this present moment, I'm not even fully grasping what you're saying if I'm not slowing myself down. And as entrepreneurs, it can be really hard to slow down because there's always this, I don't know, I feel like it's an invisible pressure, to be honest, but like it's like go, 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 go. We have to make the next sale. We have to do the things, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, cool. That's how we lead into burnout. That's how we don't
Yep.
actually stay um, in alignment with our vision in the long run. Because honestly, as entrepreneurs, we didn't join this business world to burn out like we did in our corporate settings, right? We
Yeah.
we joined it because we wanted flexibility, we want freedom, we want autonomy. And it's like if you feel like you can't slow down, that's a moment to check into like why do you feel like that and do
Yep.
some of that inner work that we're talking about because our wounding and our like deeper issues as humans are what impacts the energetics of everything that we do. And this is where like inner child and stuff like that comes in. And if that's not for you, that's totally fine. But like this is something that you could talk with a therapist about, all the things. So I
Yes.
say that because I think it's really important and I don't think there's enough people talking about it or making the tie to business specifically.
Yes. And, if it doesn't look like meditation for you, there are so many other ways
Yes.
that people are able to release this energy. Like I do comedy, if I need to get it, I'm not a journal girly. Like I don't have a desire to like write my feelings down, but how I do it is in
Yeah.
humor and writing comedy sets, even if they don't make it to the main stage. Like it's still getting what's up here out. So
Yes.
that way you're releasing that. For some folks, it's therapy. For some folks, it's going to the gym and just like
Yes.
sweating it out. Whatever that looks like for you, I think that's a really important piece as to entrepreneurship is making sure that you give yourself the opportunity to continue self-discovery on a personal side of things, because it
Mhm.
is so easy to get wrapped up and make a to-do list for your business of like 100 things to try to get done for one day, and to just be behind a computer because you feel like you have to get something done that day. Where are you a little bit more productive when you can, go play basketball and then come back and, you know, continue working, or have a good night's sleep and then come back the next day and feel refreshed. So, when we consider energetics and to-do lists and that balance between personal and professional life, consider where are you at this really aligned piece of productivity? Because if you're not feeling the most productive, your work is not going to be reflective of what you would want it to look like.
Yep. Yep. I love
Yeah.
that so much. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Yeah. So when clients come to you with roadblocks, what are some of the pieces of advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the roadblocks happen for everyone, right? And
Oh, yeah.
so the biggest thing that I teach my clients is like, let's find what works for you to move through and shift through whatever roadblocks are coming up, right? So if you are feeling frozen around your content. You're like, I just don't know what to post today. Like a lot of times we're just in our little perfectionist mindsets. And so it's like,
Oh yeah.
get up and shake, get up and dance, move the energy out of your body. And if that's not your vibe, that's fine. Just like you said, go find the thing that's going to help you move it. But ultimately, you have to find and create a toolbox full of techniques and things that will help you shift into your baddie energy, right? Again,
Oh
for
yeah.
me, it's like, oh, I have a million and one things to do today. And I'm like, got to get my kid out the door, got to do this. And so I'm like coming into my day a little bit frazzled sometimes. And so it's like, oh, something as simple as, you know, some lipstick can make such a big difference in how I show up, and especially if I'm feeling blocked. And so it's like, you know, there's a million and one ways to do it, but it's like start cultivating a toolbox through your own personal work that helps you identify what is blocking you, what is going to help you move through it. And here's the thing, we have patterns that will show up the same in a lot of different things. So once you figure it out one way, you will likely figure out the trick or the tool to use for anything that you're dealing with, right? So for me, for example, I come from the sales world. I'm really great at sales. That's always been like my jam. I've been in sales and marketing for 15 years. But leading into a sales call, I still get nervous sometimes. I'm like, ooh, I really want to work with this person. I'm so excited. I have so many ideas for their ads or whatever else. For me, it's like taking a moment to, like, again, get out of my head, get into my body. And that's simply through like 5 breaths, right? It's like
Yeah.
5 deep breaths to calm my nervous system, right?
Yeah.
Roadblocks are oftentimes a symptom of a nervous system that's a little bit overwhelmed. And if you guys follow like the holistic psychologist, you'll see a lot of this in her content where she talks about a nervous system overload and how to work through that. So the biggest piece of advice, and when I work with one-on-one clients around nervous system stuff in particular as it relates to business, is we're figuring out what tools work for their patterns. And it's so different for every single person. It's not a one size fits all. So it really requires that you show up and like put in the effort and put in the work. And once you do, you're unstoppable, right? It's like, I
Oh
know
yeah.
my pattern is always to prove myself. It comes from a long line of just always wanting to be the best or whatever. And so it's like, oh, when I know I'm in my proving energy, I know exactly what tools are going to help me move through it. I know exactly what I need to say to myself. And 9 times out of 10, it works. And then
Yeah.
when it doesn't, I have my support system. I've got my coaches. I've got people to lean on. And that's another big piece of advice is find community. If you are feeling
Yeah.
roadblocked, it's because you're likely feeling a little bit siloed. Maybe you're feeling like a little bit creatively drained, right? So it's like when I'm around people who do what I do, who care about the same things that I care about, oftentimes that little spark lights up again. And so I think it's like finding your cocktail of that, if you will. But community, I think, I don't know if I would say this for everyone, but I feel like community for 90% of people is one of the best answers there for roadblocks.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree. I think, especially solopreneurs that are going about this, like, I'm a first generation entrepreneur, college student, like, doing this really, like, nobody in my family does this. And, we're just flying by the seat of our pants sometimes. But the first thing I did was find community. And, we talked about like competition, but also folks that are in similar fields often have similar feelings and have experienced similar lessons that you will as an entrepreneur. So instead of looking at, a marketer, like a social media manager or a coach as competition, also they could be a great collaborator, not just for work itself and maybe referrals, but also like just energy balancing. Like, hey, have you experienced this? Like, I was talking to a social media manager not too long ago, and I was like, hey, is it just me, or like, are views really low right now? And that's apparently everybody's experiencing, like Instagram views being down, TikTok views being down. So I'm like, okay, it's not me. Like, it was that validation of like, the community was able to validate that, like, it's not my energy, it's not my content, it's not like I'm doing crappy work for my clients. No,
Right.
it's literally the algorithm that
Yeah.
is causing the issues here. So yeah, being able to check in with your community and offer that like energetic balance and kind of like I don't want to say ranting, but like being able to just like complain a little bit about it sometimes
Yes.
gets the energy out, and it validates within your community, and it also allows and opens up for shared learning between people that may be in similar industries.
100%. I think what you're speaking to as well is just normalizing that there are always things in our industry that we're always going to come up against. And
Yeah.
so when you don't feel like you're the only one going through it, not only does it help you move through it, but you're like, oh, this is normal, right? Because a lot of,
Yeah.
like you said, you're first generation entrepreneur. I am as well. Well, technically not, but kind of. It's just like, someone tell me that I'm not losing my mind here,
Yeah.
because like, when you are just starting out, especially in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
connecting with community is such a big piece of the puzzle for us,
Yeah.
because it just helps us to really see that, like, oh, this is a normal part of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to kind of flip the conversation and talk more about vulnerability online,
Yeah.
standing up in a courageous way online, and what that might look like for an entrepreneur that is creating content and is doing the marketing themselves for their businesses.
Yeah. I love this conversation because I think vulnerability is one of the hardest things that we do as entrepreneurs. And
Oh, yeah.
even just taking a step into entrepreneurship is very vulnerable in and of itself. So then to take it a step further and put it out in the world in your content, it can be really, really challenging. But what I oftentimes find is that even my most vulnerable content, the pieces where I am like, this is something I struggle with. Do you struggle with this? Or the times where I'm just really, again, owning like a vulnerable moment in my life. Like, for example, my mom recently passed away back in October, or no, was it October? September. Anyway, I shared about how it was impacting my experience as an entrepreneur. Like, I was very unfocused. It was really hard for me to connect into my business. And I just shared that story with people. And I cannot tell you how many people reached out to me, not only to just share condolences, but to really see me in my vulnerable moment and to love up on me. And I think as entrepreneurs, we get this idea that like we can't share that stuff because it makes us look like we are, I don't know, like we're not reliable, or we're not like legitimate if we share those things, because as corporations don't share what's happening for the C-level executives. But that's, I think, the beauty of being a small business owner, is that we can share those vulnerable moments. And as
Yep.
small businesses in particular, what I've always seen, no matter if it's in a physical store, a restaurant, or even just like an online entrepreneur, vulnerability always wins. And yes, it's going to
Yeah.
feel a little scary to share that. But when you have the tools, like we talked about earlier, to work through that, it stops feeling so scary. And it actually is a beautiful way to connect with your audience that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to connect with, and to learn about your audience even deeper than maybe you already did. And that's not to say that we're using that as a ploy or a marketing ploy, but like, generally speaking, when you share something intimate about yourself, people will also share back, because
Yeah.
our nature as humans is to love up on each other when someone is struggling, for the most part.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's also important to build a community, not just in person, but
Yeah.
also online. You want to make sure that when you do put out very vulnerable content, sharing life updates and just the challenges that you may be experiencing behind the scenes, which I'm sorry for your mother's passing. And,
Thank you.
it's very evident that you've been able to find this small ray of light through this situation, and it has made you a better entrepreneur because of it. And I think if you didn't have this amazing digital community, we're going to talk about your Facebook group and how you show up in that group. Baddies can still be baddies but have a bad day, like
Yes, I love
like
that so much.
yes, I'm like, feel free to take that. It just came to me,
Yeah, I
that
love it. I
improv
love
brain. You can still be a baddie on a bad day, but the thing is, like, if you have a supportive community that you've built online, they will be empathetic, they will be understanding. The right people will understand because they have gone through similar things, and maybe not be the exact situation, but the feelings that you are feeling, especially if you put it out there. And this is not to say to put your entire life online, because
Right.
we do live in a world where things happen, but
Yes.
you know talking about real life feelings as an entrepreneur, that's how you stand up as a role model to other people. And I think, especially folks like you and I who are coaches, who are seen as role models, who people pay us money to guide them in their life, which is a very powerful job. You know, if you're not showing up as your truly authentic self as a coach, you're also not doing right by your audience. There was an incident a few years ago that I think of. Like, there was this one coach who I followed nonstop, was like borderline obsessed with her, and her husband and her were going through marital problems behind the scenes, and nothing was said about it, but they were offering marriage counseling to other
Mhm.
people. And like when that came out that they were actually separated, like crap hit the fan. Like they
Yeah.
lost millions of dollars in their industry. Like people stopped buying their books. Like it was a huge scandal in this coaching world. So, you know, if you are not showing up in your most authentic way, even like the problem is with entrepreneurs, you know, our personal and private life do bleed. But like if we can show up as our authentic self, like the true followers of us, the true, you know, supporters of our businesses will understand. And also that gives you more power in saying that you're unfocused, which it's understandable why, but you know, that gives you more power in your truth. So that way, when you are ready to hit the ground running, whatever that delay may be, you can hit the ground running because you've gone through that process of grieving, of reprocessing your energy, of showing up in a way when you are ready to show up to your fullest potential for your clients and your customers. And that is like the most authentic thing you can do as a coach, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have like two things to say about this. So, one, I think that our audience is looking to us to be resonant with them. So, for
Mhm.
example, as a mom, it's not that I don't buy from people that aren't moms, but if I have a coach, and actually, like a lot of my coaches don't have kids, but like if they don't have kids, there's a really hard place for them to understand what I go through as a mom. So it's like,
Yeah.
not that I don't trust them, but it's like, oh, you don't really understand the challenge because you haven't been through what I'm experiencing, right? And so
Yeah.
our audiences are constantly looking for people who have gone through similar journeys, i.e., losing a parent, going through a grieving process, or going through a breakup, right? Because these are normal experiences that we are always going to have as humans. And when we as coaches or content creators show up online and own those stories, it makes it okay to not only be an entrepreneur, but to go through hard shit. And there's evidence that you can make it out on the other side while also being really, really successful. So I think that's like
Yeah.
a really, really important piece here. And then I think from a marketing lens, just like if we jump into strategy for just a second, again, when you own your story, it's a differentiator. It says, okay, there's two business coaches here, one of which they both have similar experience, but this one has been a mother. She's gone through a similar experience to me. I'm more likely to hire somebody whose story that I resonate with because I experienced the same kinds of journey, right? So it's like not only from a strategy perspective, but also from like just knowing and really understanding like how impactful your story can be is so important to remember. And again, it's going to be activating for you to share vulnerable shit online. That's part of it, but that's also what we signed up for. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in my world, when I talk with my clients, it's like they'll be like, I just want to say this. And I'm like, say it. What's
Yeah.
the worst that's going to happen? Because
For real.
also, going into the strategy piece as well, our job as content creators and coaches is not to appease everyone. We shouldn't want to be liked by everyone. We shouldn't need the validation from everyone in order to be successful. As a marketer online, your job is to speak to an audience and let that audience decide either they're with you or they're not your people. And if you're trying
Mhm.
to please everyone with every single piece of content, you're losing a fighting game, or whatever that terminology is.
Yeah. Also, the people that are your most dedicated followers, your most dedicated clients, if you are contradicting yourself in your messaging, they're going to be like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah.
didn't you just say this last week? I was paying attention. So, yeah, from a marketing strategy perspective, like, if you can come up with, I think that's why it's so important to come up with your core values first. Like, literally yesterday, that's what I was doing. I'm gonna like really quickly just showcase what is sprawled over all over my desk. Is like I bought this. The one thing is a book, and they came out with a core values pack. And like basically, I'm reworking my business plan to pick out a bunch of core values and write them down. And that is my guiding light.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do that work, your messaging will be clear, and the people that want to be attracted to it, that resonate with it, often it's a former self of yours that is in a different person. You form that trust through that online communication, that in-person communication, like that self-work guides your messaging across the board, and there wouldn't be this contradictory messaging moving forward if that work was done first. And yeah, like, so I'm actually on the opposite side of the spectrum, where I'm somebody who proudly doesn't want kids. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, and I own that. Like
Yes.
I love my business. My business is my baby. And like my
100%.
messaging is like, if you don't need to go take care of your human babies, I've got your business baby handled. Like I can help you
Love
in
it.
that. Like I could be your business babysitter for your social media. Like, but that's how I own it. Like, I felt, I don't want to say like I felt this disconnect often, and I still kind of feel this sometimes, where it's hard for me to talk to women with kids that are business owners, because I'm like, I just don't know how that feels. I'm never gonna know how that feels. Like I'm like, do I even try like marketing to them? But you know, asking questions, I feel like, is also a really important piece of the toolkit of like, I may never know I will never know how you feel to have kids or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I can ask questions and, have a conversation about it and have a better understanding of the feelings that you go through every day, how it went when you had your kids, how it feels, like how it impacts your business. Like, we can empower ourselves as business leaders through active listening and asking questions and just really opening up a conversation. And I think having that empathy for other people and opening up, like just having the ability to, and the platform to open up more vulnerable conversations among your community makes you a baddie.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like what you're speaking to there too is positioning, right? So
Yeah.
like I might position myself as someone who knows what mothers are going through as entrepreneurs so that I could connect with the moms in my audience. Whereas you're like, hey, I'm not a mom, but let me babysit your business so that you can go handle the home shit.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
is great messaging. I love that messaging so much because it speaks to the same pain point, which is moms oftentimes feel so overwhelmed by everything that they have to hold in their lives, including their business. And so
Yeah.
it's like when you can figure out the way that you want to speak to it, it's great. And honestly, too, like I have so many coach friends who are choosing not to have children as well. And I love working with them. Like my current coach right now is someone who doesn't have kids. So it's like, I love that for different phases of my life. When my
Yeah.
kid's a little bit older now and I'm not as invested in the day to day. But I love how you shared that. And for the viewers, it's real, that's positioning right there. It's like
Yeah.
we're solving the same problem, we're just saying it in two different ways.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with it. Like, these are our own experiences that
Right.
have led us to our decisions in life. But like, we are both very passionate about our businesses. And I think that is where the alignment really like shines bright for both of us. And then we come together as collaborators and supporters of one another. And I think that's what really makes, like, especially the women-owned business
Yeah.
community just so much more special. Like,
Yeah.
no offense to the men, but like, let's be honest, who are we talking to here?
That's so true.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So I am curious as to what your Baddie energy framework looks like. Like, how can folks really dive into um their energetics and like
Yeah.
providing results for their businesses, especially in this new year coming up?
Yeah. So a lot of what I teach in terms of my methodology comes down to you being emotionally regulated and leveraging your nervous system to execute on your strategy, right? So it's like when I know what I'm doing, when I'm confident in what I'm doing, when I'm energetically aligned with what I'm doing, I can then go out and sell. I can create content so much easier and so much faster. And so these are the principles that I teach in my private community, which is on Facebook. It's called the Baddie Bank. And in there, what I'm doing is teaching you guys how to create consistent cash flow as coaches, courses, and healers. And then in addition to that, I also have my creative side of my business because I'm also a service provider, which I just launched within the last month. So
Hey.
it's a paid ads business where I help online entrepreneurs grow and scale, get hired faster through paid advertising. I don't do social media content like you. That I'm like into the paid side of things, but I mean those are the best ways to kind of learn my methodology and to feel it out. But in my world, it truly is the intertwinement of energetics and a solid nervous system with a solid business strategy. And I honestly think that that's what that's how we prevent business burnout, especially for small businesses in particular, where we roll in so many different ways in our business. We're the CFO, the CEO, we're the chief marketing officer, we're the fucking customer service person, we're everything. And so you learning how to be energetically aligned and emotionally regulated will make your business far more successful in the long run, and it's going to keep you focused on your vision. So that's a little bit about
Yes.
my methodology and how I teach it, and I love it, and I've seen such great results with it with myself and with all of my clients, so it's amazing.
I love it. And you're doing that cash injection challenge, which I love following along and seeing everybody. Like, it's also a community where you could just celebrate that, celebrate. We talked a lot about struggles, but also being vulnerable is talking about the celebrations. I know
Yeah.
in my methodology, I preach appreciative inquiry. Like, let's talk about strengths and highlights. And in your community, especially, like, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of information sharing,
Yep.
celebration sharing, gratitude, vulnerable struggle sharing, and overcoming roadblocks. So you get an entire array of emotional check-ins, and I think that's so important. Remember, to the viewers out there, like, people in corporate jobs get holidays off automatically, and you are your own boss, so you can create your schedule, and you should probably pick and choose days to just like not work on the business. It is okay to take a day off. And that's a really important thing to remember, especially around these times. Social media managers are going through it right now. So, in any way that you can really look at your energy, ground yourself, raise that productivity in the times where you're most feeling productive, bang out a bunch of work. And then when you know that you're going to be feeling low energy, maybe you have some family time to look forward to, focus on that, because life is also about the people that surround you. We talked about community, and not just your online community, not just your clients, but your family is your community too. And this holiday season, especially, take that time, cherish it while you're around them, and take some time off. It's okay. The internet will still be there tomorrow.
Promise, not going anywhere.
For real. Awesome. Well, I think we had a great conversation today. Ashley,
Likewise.
anything else last minute you want to plug to the
Uh,
people?
just come on over to the Baddie Bank. And if you're someone that's like, dude, I would love to be able to turn off like my brain and like not worry about my business right now, paid ads might be a really good way to supplement the time off from your business. So if you're looking at 2024 and you're trying to plan out your off times, but also your launches, contact me. I would love, love, love to talk about how ads can support your business and your growth in 2024. We've got a lot of options here, but if you're like, I don't know where to start, just come on over to the Baddie Bank. I'd love to have you in my community. It's so much fun. We are constantly doing so many different things. There's also days where you get to promote your offers. So even if you're just wanting to try to promote your offers and you're trying to work through the kinks of that, it's a great way and a great place to do it. So head on over there. We'll drop the link in the
Amazing.
comments.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I am so glad we got to do this, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. And to everybody that listened to How to Be a Baddie Online, thank you so much for tuning in. Uh, Thank you so much, and have a happy Friday, my friend.
All right. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Marketing Mixtape podcast featuring Ashley Kruse of the Business Baddie and hosted by me, Brittany Winfield of the Winfield Creative. Did you know that all these episodes are actually recorded live on Instagram? Because we can do that now. How amazing! Be sure to follow the Winfield Creative to be in the know and join the conversation as to when these recordings go live. Now go forward and be your baddest self. Love you!